Everything is all about these double chamber air fryers, and as you can see, Philips is also involved with its Dual Basket Airfryer 3000. And in this video you will find out whether Philips can also do double chambers, because we have of course tested this appliance for you, so just stay tuned, we'll start right away.
Okay, let's start with an overview of the product. Philips offers an output of 2750 watts and has a total capacity of 9 liters. This is of course divided into 2 cooking chambers, and this is also where we find the first special feature of this appliance, namely the 2 cooking chambers with their different sizes. One is around 6 and the other around 3 liters. This not only gives you the option of preparing 2 dishes at the same time, but you can also make the whole thing a little more practical. Meaning you can put the main dish in the larger compartment, or let's say the bulk of your meal, and then a smaller side dish or a single portion into the smaller drawer. For example, if you just want to cook something for yourself. These compartments can also be adjusted to each other, of course. This means that your food can either be synchronized with each other if you have different foods inside, or if you have the same thing in there, match the 2 compartments, so that everything is ready at the same time. This device offers a touch display. It certainly looks nice, but the big disadvantage is that it attracts dust like a magnet. A special feature here is the so-called rapid air technology. This basically means that it has a special design that is intended to optimize the air circulation, but we'll take a closer look at that later on. Now we come to the measurements. After all, you have to find the right place for this appliance. We have 31.4 times 44.4 centimeters in height and width, and 38.3 centimeters in depth. And you can see that these double chamber air fryers are not quite so small. So it's a good thing that there are also some transportation handles underneath, so you can easily put the appliance away if you no longer want it sitting in the kitchen. We think it's a bit of a shame that the cable is only about 80 centimeters long. It could have been a bit longer, but what's really nice is that there's a cable holder at the back. That means you can wind it up so it doesn't get in the way. To finish our little overview, let's move on to the accessories. We have the 2 trays, an inlay for the smaller, as well as a meshed basket for the bigger compartment. And that about sums it up. In the past, there was often a recipe booklet included, but that's no longer the case today. But it doesn't have to, because Philips has a large collection of recipes with its NutriU or HomeID app, and all of them also come with step-by-step instructions. So you can definitely get along quite well. By the way, if you are interested in the product, then take a look at the description below the video. You can find all the links there. Next, we come to the essentials, namely to our practical test. We would like to start this segment with the operation. First of all, we have a temperature range that goes from 40 to 200 degrees Celsius, which can then be set in 5-degree steps, and a timer that goes up to 60 minutes. You can set the time in 1-minute steps, and you can hold these in order to skip through the values faster. There are a total of 8 presets available. To select the desired preset, simply tap on the relevant symbol, so it's really easy. What we find really nice is that the time and temperature are displayed at the same time, which isn't the case with every appliance. You have to wait for the values to change with some appliances, which is annoying, of course. The most important thing when it comes to operating a double chamber like this is to coordinate the 2 chambers with each other, of course. We essentially have 3 options here. There is the option to synchronize, then we have the option to match the settings. You also have the option to set everything individually, of course. In other words, you have all the options you need here. What we find a bit of a shame, however, is that the sync function does not show hold on the display like other devices. Instead, you see a synchronization symbol on the display all the time, which of course also works to make sure which mode you are currently in. But we always preferred this hold symbol, which always stood out so much that you knew immediately at what stage you were. The only other small disadvantage, in our opinion, is that you can't use the sync function when working with presets. Philips must have thought that you don't necessarily need an extra match function for the single additional setting that you then have to make. We think that's true, so it's not such a huge issue. What we really like about the operation of Philips devices is that they now have a shake reminder almost as default features, which means that you are reminded to shake or turn the food. You can simply select this feature via the display if you want to use it. Okay, that's it on the subject of operation. Let's now take a look at our test kitchen and see how our cooking results have turned out. We want to start with the basics, namely fries. They turned out really well for us. Crispy on the outside, tender on the inside, very potatoey. As with all appliances, you have to be a bit careful that they don't get too dry, but if you keep an eye on this, you get a good and tasty result. The same applies to the chicken nuggets. We've also added potato wedges to our range simply to have another fresh potato product. We've achieved a good and even result here as well. Nice and crispy on the outside and fluffy and potatoey on the inside. They look very appealing. We have also added baked rolls to our range. This is something that many people now want to do with these appliances, and what can we say? They were baked perfectly. Golden on the outside, hot and fluffy on the inside. And yes, we made sure by opening them up and see for ourselves. It was on point. When testing an air fryer, you'd better don't forget typical air fryer foods, like chicken wings. We also got a visually nice result. Everything's cooked through and tasted good. There was nothing to complain about. We also tried baking and always prepare a few muffins. In our case, they were baked up nicely. Golden on the outside and nice and fluffy on the inside. So we had good cooking results overall. There was really nothing to complain about. Not even compared to other appliances. But what did this rapid air technology achieve? What we can say is not much in the end. The effect was hardly noticeable compared to other modern air fryers. You can't say that it was really noticeably faster, nor was it much crispier, and you still had to turn your food too. So if it was better, then maybe a little bit, but not much. Okay, next let's come to the handling. First thing we want to talk about are the grid inlays. They tend to come loose when you shake or when you want to put the food on the plate, and that's why we always test them by shaking. The small compartment didn't budge in our test. The larger compartment, however, with the meshed basket slipped out bit by bit. But in the end, it was still secure enough so that you could work well with it. So it wasn't really that much of a problem. We were actually quite happy with the appliance in terms of its volume at around 60 decibels. It's maybe a little over that, so you can definitely cope with the noise quite well. It wasn't annoying or anything. What we have to mention again at this point, unfortunately, is the workmanship. From a distance, the device looks really nice, but if you take a closer look, you will find a few small things like some gaps. These were quite apparent in some places. The material used also has a couple of ripples and dents here and then there is also the fact that the drawers look a bit shabby. The large drawer can be pushed in pretty easily at the front, and the transition between the drawers also looks a bit rough. What looks quite good in contrast is the display, which definitely looks cleanly framed and well finished. And, well, we complained about the drawers, but they can at least be closed firmly and securely. So, that's all right so far. On the whole, however, especially for a branded appliance, we think the workmanship could have been a bit better. Finally, we come to the subject of cleaning. And the most important message here is that the accessories are dishwasher proof, and this is really important because it saves you a lot of time. The dishwasher result was okay on the whole, but there were still some spots on the mesh of the basket itself. That could have been a little bit better. So we come to the conclusion. In terms of its price, we would describe the Philips Dual Basket as being in the middle price range. Personally, we think that it could perhaps have been a little bit better for its price point, especially in the secondary areas, be it workmanship or cleaning. It simply could have been a bit better for the price. Nevertheless, Philips makes up for a lot of it in terms of its heat management. It is one of the better appliances in this regard. We also liked the core function, in other words, cooking. We also liked it in terms of operation. If you want a branded appliance and can make good use of two different size compartments, you are definitely on the right track here, especially as the comparable branded appliance from Tefal is similarly priced. With this in mind, if you are interested in the product, then take a look at the description below the video. You can find all the links there. And if you are not all too sure about which appliance suits you best, take a look at this video here. We compare different air fryers with each other there, and this will surely help you to find the right air fryer for you.